Welcome to The Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Secretly, everything you experience in your life is actually abundance. Once you understand how to activate abundance, you find yourself in flow with your business and clients, so it's easy to create the revenue you want. The Abundance Journey is the only show that activates abundance for you, so you enjoy rapid results in your business. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
You know, I love meeting people who are making a massive difference in the world. I was so lucky that a friend introduced me to Susan Popoola, and I was totally blown away. We had such a great conversation. I was kicking myself for not recording it. In fact, we started chatting this morning before I started this recording, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to be recording this. It's so good. I begged Susan to join me on the Abundance Journey show because I know you're going to be inspired by her too. She's just so incredible. One of the many things that I absolutely love and adore about Susan is that she challenges me. She doesn't see the world exactly the way I do. And I love that because her insightful questions, her really thoughtful responses open me up to receive more divine guidance. It's like she expands my world. She expands my thinking. And that's just such a gift. Now, I absolutely adore Susan. I know you are going to adore her too, but let me tell you a little bit about her so you understand why she's so amazing. Susan Popoola is a human value optimization specialist. She coaches and mentors purpose-driven leaders and teams to create impact, harmony, and legacy. It's so sad that there are too many parts of our world right now that are completely out of harmony. Well, fortunately, Susan's unique approach is the perfect antidote. Susan is the author of several books about the male perspective of the value of women at work. Interesting, male perspective of the value of women at work. That's a dichotomy there. Susan marries her human-focused qualifications and her background experience in HR strategy, organizational development, system thinking, investor relations, and community engagement. I mean, she's got this broad tapestry that she draws from. And as a result, Susan's research enables her to translate the complexity of the modern workplace, which quite frankly is a representation of the entire world. And she translates that into very straightforward, simple messages and solutions that lead to both engagement and transformation. Susan, such a slacker. She's also the host of the Leading in a Mosaic World podcast. I know she doesn't have enough to do. She's regularly called on to facilitate and speak at global events because she's that good at bringing people together into collaboration, cohesion, and community. One of the things that I just admire and respect the most about Susan is her passion for supporting young people who have been in the foster care system because they haven't had access to the resources that many of us enjoy. Honestly, every single place Susan goes, she opens doors that expand and uplift our world. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you very much, Elaine. I mean, it was, well, thank you. We did have a good conversation previously, and I'm glad to be back again to have more of a conversation and to learn from you as well.
Oh, you are such a gift, and I'm just really delighted that we get to share this time together. You know, there's a practice that I have been doing for a while with my clients that I'm going to start doing here. And first, I want to invite everyone to listen to our conversation from your heart. It's all too easy to get trapped in the head where we want to evaluate and analyze and judge and put things in nice, neat little categories so that it matches our own expectations of the world. When we listen from the heart, we allow ourselves to feel the message first. We get a sense of, is this information opening me and inspiring me, uplifting me, or is it shutting me down and making me feel more limitation? The limitation, the shutdown, is not your truth. Your truth is feeling truly open and receptive. So I invite you, wherever you are in your world, to just listen from your heart And one of the ways that we're going to do that together is we're going to take 3 deep breaths together before we start with the intention. Now, on the inhale, I invite you to think the words, I am. And on the exhale, think the word consciousness. I am consciousness. This helps unite us and our energies and unite us with the divine. So let's do those 3 breaths right now. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. As we're marinating in this state of oneness, we'll go ahead, I'll read the intention, and we'll hold it for 78 seconds in silence. Here we go. In love and light, we hold the intention that we automatically welcome the blessings of each individual, opening ourselves to receive unexpected opportunities, prosperity, and fulfilling lives. Thank you, Divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. Wow, that was amazing. That was really cool. You have such good energy, Susan. Oh, man. It was really interesting because while I was holding that intention, I got an image, and it was a memory of when I was fortunate enough to swim with a whale shark. And whale sharks eat plankton. They're not meat eaters. And so I was in the ocean, and the water was really cloudy, full of plankton. And I was swimming with a whale shark that was the size of a school bus. I mean, it was like 20, 25 feet long, massive thing, and really wide too. Boy, each side was like 5 feet, maybe 10 feet wide, massive, massive creature. And I was just in awe, being in the presence, the majesty of this amazing creature. And the whale shark was just whale sharking. It knew I was there, but it didn't care. It was eating. It was busy focusing on the plankton. It couldn't care less that I was there. And I just felt, man, it would be so nice if we could just be grateful to be who we are.
Yeah. And I'll just comment on that because it makes me think, and it very much aligns to what we're ultimately talking about. To be truly grateful for who you are, you need to know who you are, your purpose, and who you're supposed to be, the manner of speaking. That's when you can truly rest in that.
I love that.
And I think the challenge for so many of us is the imagery and the message we're given of who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to be is often a contrast, and it often conflicts. And I'm rubbing my hands because that's just rubbing against, and not in a comfortable way. And so if you've got that rubbing up against, it's difficult to be who you are. And so there is something, and I'm almost jumping ahead in a way, but there is almost something about, should I say, being able to center yourself, look within, and then just know, the more you know, the more able you are to be that you're supposed to be.
I love that. Wow, that was so beautiful. I really appreciate you bringing that in. And it was so interesting because I saw the cloudy plankton as all the opportunities, all the blessings, all the little tiny stuff that we don't pay any attention to, right? Because we're busy, we're distracted, we've got things to do, we have deadlines and all of this stuff that prevents us from seeing the little blessings. Now, you've been doing what you do for quite some time. Obviously, you're at the top of your game. You're working with senior leaders and people from around the globe, pulling teams together and helping them collaborate effectively. What got you started here? Why are you so passionate about this?
People, my mum. It's a funny thing in a way, because the podcast is the abundance journey. And really, it is a reflection of my journey. I still remember when I was small, my mum always told me, everyone is of value. Everyone is of importance. It doesn't matter who they are or what they do. Everyone has something to offer. And consciously, subconsciously, I mean, that has followed me in more later years. I'm being more conscious, and that's what human value optimization is about. It's people recognizing their value. It's people around them recognizing the value that they bring. The two go hand in hand together, and that's when you get the most for or from people for the sake of self and for the sake of others around them, whether you're talking about within education, the workplace, or wider society. And so that was the starting point with me. It's what led me to, I guess, ultimately do work which is very much people-focused with a human-centered approach. It led me that while I was working within corporate organizations, public sector organizations, different types of organizations that I've been privileged to work with from my early career days, that at the same time I always had an involvement in community. It's funny that you talk about visions, because I remember when I was about 12 years old, I was just sitting down. I am a deep thinker, and I was sitting down thinking one day, and I just had this sense. Don't ask me where it came from, but it was that if I have everything that I want for myself, but I'm surrounded by people in need, I couldn't be truly fulfilled. Now, I like good things. I'm not against good things, but it's just the whole. And it's not about being a savior to people, but it's about that sharing, that supportiveness, that guiding. And so I think that is key to why I always did things in community, most especially with young people, different things over time. It's also in reflecting and seeing things, it's what has led me to write. So when I talk about male perspectives or the value of women at work, it's the recognition of the challenges around gender and women's progression, which is still limited. There's some great initiatives, but that progress is limited when you think of what women are capable of. And so for me, it was a matter of, I can ask women, you hear from women all the time, but we're not talking to men. So let's talk to men and ask them. So that's the type of thinking that I bring to spaces. And okay, so you understand from men's perspective, but you also become aware of men's journey and their challenges. And then I start thinking, we need to create harmony. How do we live, work, be the optimal together? And I think all of that, as I said, it's followed me to a second book I wrote, which it has a diversity element to it, and different challenges. But then I started thinking of a mosaic Britain, a mosaic world, a world in which all of us are enabled to be who we are, and people can see the value that we bring, and we come together with our common interests, our common humanity, even the things that make us different. And we come together to create something which I would call a mosaic, because all the different pieces create something beautiful, bound together by those other things like glue. And I guess that's it, really.
Is that all? That was amazing. That was amazing. Because what I heard you say, I'm just going to repeat back in totally different words. What I heard you say is you have a passion for empowering people to realize their own value and share it and articulate it clearly, powerfully, to own who they are. And I do want to share a quick story with you. A few months ago, I was doing some dishes. It's so interesting when we do something that doesn't require a lot of brain power, it always stuff comes through. So I'm doing dishes and I'm thinking, sometimes you've got a project and it just comes together. It's so easy peasy. And, you don't even really notice that it's done. It's so easy. And then there's times when you're working on something and it's just a slog. It doesn't matter what you do. You hit roadblock after roadblock and frustration after frustration. And I was like, why does that happen? And I immediately felt and heard this really loud, forceful voice in my body. And it said, when you deny your power is denied to you. When you acknowledge your power is shown to you. You are more powerful than you can imagine. And one of the things that I really love about your work, Susan, you're helping people understand their power, acknowledge their power, and use their power to make a difference in the world. That's why we're here. I have so much respect and appreciation for what you're doing, and I'm going to have to keep you here all day. I hope you don't mind. So
I just have to add, our power is best realized in association with others,
yes,
in recognition of others as well. So it is very much about people recognizing who they are, their value, their purpose, having positive impact, getting to a place of legacy. But it's also, you only truly do that. You're only comfortable in your space when you're more aware of others, especially people that we other a lot.
Yes.
And we work in harmony with them, because that's the only time that we can truly be ourselves. And no man is an island, so we need each other as well to be able to work in harmony in order to get the outcomes we're looking for.
That is so true. I could not agree with you more. It was really interesting because I received the message that there are 3 key things the divine wants us to do. The first one is be love in every moment. Be love for yourself and be love for others.
Yeah.
The second one is notice the love that's already present. And it's not obvious. It's a scavenger hunt. And usually it has to do with things like, so what am I being reminded to practice? I'm often told, listening's a good idea. You listening with your heart, sweetie? Remember that concept? So you have to dig a little deeper. Notice the love that's already present for you. And the third thing is get together with other people, because every time you do, you automatically create more love. You can't help it. So yeah, community is absolutely vital. Now, I'm going to take you down so many roads that I really need to bring us back to the subject at hand. And obviously, the name of the show is The Abundance Journey. I have never had 2 people define abundance exactly the same way. And I can't wait to hear your definition of abundance.
For me, abundance is fulfillment. Because it's very easy to think of abundance, and I think this aligns with the whole thing about the shark. It's very easy for us to think of abundance as things. The houses, the cars, the clothes, the status. As I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with those things as long as it's not achieved to the detriment of others, as long as we don't believe that having those things make us better than others, and as long as we don't try, they'll never give us full satisfaction. They'll give us some satisfaction, some pleasure, but not in totality. So to some extent, they are part of prosperity, but they're a small part of it. It's just like money, the money that we use to buy those. They're lubricants. They're lubricants to help make things happen and achieve things. But fulfillment, for me, is what real prosperity is. And so it's the whole person, the whole being. And as I said, we keep saying it, coming back to it, in association with others. And so a prosperous person is someone that has good health, has a good life, a good relationship with others, impact, positive impact, because we're always having impact, but positive impact. And they're living in harmony with people and the world around them.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And it's so funny. Every time you say harmony and living in community, I just see this beautiful orchestra. You know, every single person is a different instrument, a different voice, the tone of voice, the pacing of their voice, the kinds of stories they share. It was really interesting. I got to go to a local event where some Native American Indians were present, and they offered to do blessings. And I was with my niece, and I said, absolutely, would you like a blessing? And she was a little bit resistant. And I was like, honey, I'll take blessings for anybody who wants to give me blessings. I'm more than happy, however you want to term it. You know, as long as I interpret whatever you're doing as a blessing, I get a blessing.
Exactly. And especially, and you're also talking to people who, and this is a generalization, so you're talking to people who typically haven't lost their connection to the earth, to nature, to the world around them, divine, however you position things. So for me, there's something, I have a big thing about indigenous people across the world, from Aborigine people to native Indians to African, or all those people that are still in touch with their cultures, the way of life before we got caught up with buildings and things. Because I believe they're very much connected to nature, and they're connected to the rhythms of life. Much more connected. So much so that when we talk about a lot of challenges and problems in the world, I believe we should be talking to indigenous people who have that connection, because it goes back to when you talk about listening and hearing, and they are much more in tune, and therefore in tune to the real solutions and the things that we need.
Ah, beautiful. So beautiful. Now, obviously, you've worked with a lot of different people. You've seen a lot of challenges, both in the workplace, but also with the folks that you work with who have come from the foster care system. Have you noticed kind of a common symptom that people are struggling with? Where are they stuck?
It's different with the different people. And I'll start with young people who have been in the foster care system. And I will say each person is different. Each experience is different. Because if you think of even siblings that live at home with their parents, they're different, respond different, they'll be treated differently for whatever reason and all. And so the same applies with young people that have been in the foster system, and they're those that will have had a great experience, those less so. The key is, if you think about it, at some stage, because it depends on when they've gone into foster care, it could have been as a baby, a toddler, teenager, or what have you, they've gone through displacement. And if you think of displacement, it's a friction. It would take a lot to do that, such that it's a smooth process. So there's a friction, and that friction can be traumatic to varying degrees. It can be painful. It can lead to confusion about identity, place, belonging, and acceptance. Now, if you look around you in the world, so many of us carry that with us. But then if you think of a young person, a child, carrying that, just getting to adulthood, trying to navigate those early years, it's all the more difficult to navigate, especially with the messages. I always use the example of my godson, because when he got to the age, I mean, a typical young person, depending in the States on what state you're in, but typically you get to the age of 18, you can drink, you can drive, but you have all the other support. So you're an adult, but you have all the other support you had. But for a child that was in foster care, a lot of the support that they had is withdrawn at that crucial stage in life. And you're trying to navigate through. And I say it like with my godson, the reason why I use him, he has a very good relationship with his mum, that throughout his years in university, he spoke to her on a daily basis. So he already had a clarity about identity, and through the time, something small comes up, we talk, something positive. So there's that reinforcement of self, and having a mother that is like enabling him to be who he is and go through his journey, make his mistakes. Imagine not having that. As I think about it, I feel a sense of it being cold. So you're going through something and you have no one to talk to, or the person to talk to is not there because it's a weekend or it's an evening, and how small things become big. And I could go on and on, but that gives a feel for it. So that's the key with children, young people who have been in foster. And as I said, every experience is different, but there will be degrees of that, some better able to manage it than others.
You know, you bring up such a good point. I want to interject here because I think it's really, really vital. And it doesn't matter if it's someone who's in the foster care system or someone who's in an office. That's that's a family too. And we have the opportunity to create a family of choice, which usually isn't in the workplace. And then we have to figure out, how do we adapt, adopt, integrate, support a family that's kind of forced on us through an office environment, through a foster care system, through our circumstances. I don't have an answer for that, but I think there's a dichotomy here. I think it's really important to have that family of choice, so you do get support, you do get encouragement, you do get all the things that you need, and at the same time, don't give up on the family that's forced on you. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I mean, it's probably easiest, and that's where the support is important. If you're a young person and you have someone forced on you who is abusive, whether in whatever form, that's a harder thing to accept than not. Or someone that doesn't understand, that has no empathy for your journey and experiences. So I understand it in principle, and I take that as a starting point. But the key then goes back to human value optimization. That young person learning to love, appreciate who they are, and actually the other people in the space that they're in. Because key then is for other people to learn to see each other. Because if I want you to appreciate me and I don't see you, it makes it harder. Because I just come with my judgments, my preconceived ideas. They might even be positive, but if they're not reflective of you, and I enter a space and I'm telling you, I can't think immediately of an example, but if I've come into the room and I immediately express judgments without taking time to understand, then it makes it more difficult. And I've got the perfect example. When I was doing a dissertation for a master's human resources strategy, I did it around the fire service. And it was a time in the UK where there was transformation of the fire service. So change, basically looking to change things. And there was a lot of focus on the negative things, about some of the negative parts of the culture, which do exist. And I remember interviewing different people, inclusive of firefighters. And there was one particular firefighter, I think he was said the hard militant person. And the key was in talking to him was ask questions, but ask questions to listen, to understand, to challenge at times, but challenge on the basis of what he said as opposed to what I thought. Or even when I'm bringing in my questions, it's an open question as opposed to a judgment. And the two things that I remember him saying, one is, we're open to change. It's just we want change that we know will work. So we want to be involved in the process.
Right.
And secondly, we'll work with anyone, but we just know that we need to know that we can trust them. Someone else spoke about loyalty. So if you're thinking of any environment with that young person that might, at times, some people might think, okay, you're difficult, you don't listen, but are you listening to them? Are you engaged? How are you engaging with them? But the same, when we talk about those families, those spaces, the key is, how much are we listening? How are we engaging with people? And what is seeping through about our thoughts of them that they're responding to?
Yes. That is so important. We give off subliminal signals that we don't even realize. You have micro expressions that people don't realize they see, but their subconscious minds pick up on it. It's been really interesting. I love shows where they talk about body language, and you can tell if people are getting along because they kind of move their angles the same, their bodies to the same angle when they're talking to each other. They lean in a little bit because they're really interested. They make a lot of eye contact. I mean, there are things that we send out that we don't realize we're communicating. Wow, you're really cool, and I want to know more. You fascinate me. And that's why listening from the heart is such an important skill. It's not just listening with your ears. You know, it's really interesting. I'm reading a fascinating book right now. It's written by the guy who produced the last Johnny Cash album. I'm blanking on the name of the book. What's it called? It's called The Creative Act. And in The Creative Act, he talks about how your ears don't have a covering the way your eyes do. Your eyelids, you can close your eyelids and then you can't see. But your ears can't do that. It's taking in information from all over the place. And your entire body is a resonance chamber of information. And not only are you receiving information with your entire body, you are sending information with your entire body. So being aware of how you are present in the moment and truly listening from the heart makes all the difference in the world. Now, I do have another question for you, Susan, because I absolutely adore everything that you're doing. I just like, could we just do a Spock mind meld right now? Because that would be so helpful. I have noticed for myself, I don't want to put anything on anybody else, but I've noticed that when I want my exterior world to change, something has to change inside me. What have you noticed? The people you're working with, the foster kids that you're collaborating with, what have you noticed they have to be willing to do internally themselves before they get that shift in their external experience?
It's being able to see and accept self. So, and be curious about self to be able to have the conversations. Because, and that might start, so if I'm working with a person, whether it's a young person, whether it's a team, a leader, impact, legacy, what have you, all of those things, if I'm working with a person, the starting point is seeing the person, hearing the person. And then there are those questions that you ask the person to create an awareness. And I think that is really the starting point, a curiosity and awareness. So I could break that down a bit. So we often have our preconceived ideas, not just of other people, but also of ourselves. We have our judgments, our views. How we've got there is a different matter. But we're carrying all of those things based on what other people have said and everything else. We also have a big focus on the external. What people say, what people see, what people expect of us, what we should have, and all of those things. So the key really is for a person to be able to pause. To just pause for a minute and say, put all of those external things aside. Who am I? What do I want? Holistically as a being. And that's the starting point. And that could be through someone like myself or others holding a mirror that enables them to see, asking the questions, or it could be from that person and their own process where they're pausing, they're journaling, they're reflecting on their journey, and all of those different things that enable them to begin to see, oh, actually, this is what I'm about, and it wasn't that bad. Oh gosh, look at what I've achieved, and and all of those different things.
Oh, I love that. And, it's really interesting that you bring that up because I think it's very challenging for us to see ourselves sometimes. I was blessed after my stroke, and miraculously, I didn't have any damage at all. I came home and spent the next 10 years with my parents and my in-laws at end of life and helping care for them and get them to doctor's appointments and all this stuff. And I kept beating myself up for not making as much progress as I thought I should be making in my business. And then I started this practice that I call my daily celebration. Every Monday through Friday, I've got a friend of mine who lives on the opposite side of the country. She has children. I don't. She's in a completely different industry than I'm in. She's lots of differences. And I will send her an email Monday through Friday saying, here's what I accomplished over the weekend or the day before, celebrating that, and then celebrating in advance, here's what I'm going to get done today. And then life happens and everything changes. And so it's just kind of interesting to see the progression. And she replies back to my email next to different lines saying, wow, that's really great. Look at all your progress. Here's a cool book that could help you. Let me introduce you to this person. I mean, she's facilitating and opening doors for me and allowing me to see the world in a different way. And I get really up about it. And of course, I see her email to me and I respond back because she's freaking brilliant. And I just love celebrating her, and that gets my energy up. So both of us have this transformative experience. One of the things that was most powerful about that, as I tracked my time and what I truly was doing and how I was living my life, I was honoring my relationship with my parents. I wasn't blessed to have children, but I was blessed to have some awesome parents. And being with them towards end of life is one of the most challenging and blissful experiences of my life. I wouldn't trade a second of it. And it was only by having that distance that I could actually see I'm doing the right thing. And this is exactly how I want to spend my time.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's important. I mean, and I'm just pausing because I'm hearing that emotion and I'm just pausing, honoring that for a second. But I think at times for people to make that shift, sometimes it's something key, not always, but more often, there's something key that has happened. A loss could be a family member, a friend, but a loss, a relationship that has broken down is not quite what a person thought it would be. The promotion that was expected that has not come. And it's often when there's something that has broken or is fractured that it leads to a pause. And the person can either just push through in anger, frustration, or denial, or what have you, or the person can pause. And then that's the point that more often that you find the person starts to think, things aren't quite the way I thought they would be. I thought that I can think of the person who I worked with who had done very well business wise, had developed successful businesses, had put things in trust for children. Then family relationship broke down, the relationship with children was lost. And then you see things aren't what you thought they would be. And then you can just get anger. And the initial point was anger, but then it's a matter of, okay, let's just pause and then see, let's talk this through. What does this mean for you? And who are you now? Because before your identity was all around, I have to work hard for my family and do things. And sometimes you're doing two as opposed to with, but that was the focus. So that what now? What do you want to be? How do you want to redefine yourself? So there's that. I can also think of an example of someone who also rich, successful, because when it comes to talking about legacy, because with that first person, initially his legacy was all about his children. But then when you find that's no longer going to be the case, what is your legacy? What are you here for? What do you leave behind? Then you talk to the person, a lady who has her successful business, family, generation to generation. But she had her story, and her story involved abuse. And she really wanted to have an impact in that space as well. But it wasn't until we sat down and really had a conversation, holding the space, that she realized that she can actually do the two. It's just having that space. Sometimes it's someone supporting you to get there. Sometimes you can get there by yourself.
Yeah.
To reflect and see where you really want to go.
So beautiful. So beautiful. You know, Susan, you remind me of something. I read a fabulous book called Fans First. And in this book, the author says, legacy is not about what you leave for people. It's what you leave in people. And you are leaving such an incredible legacy. I'm so grateful you could be here with me today. And I do want to know, I mean, obviously all of us are starting at a different starting point. We are where we are. Wherever we are, what would a baby step look like that could move us closer towards this beautiful mosaic? And again, going back to our intention, really automatically welcoming the blessings of each individual. What can we do to automatically welcome the blessings of each individual?
Be curious. Become curious. Because it's so easy. We spoke earlier about the challenges in the world, around the world today, and they are numerous. And yet more often than not, we're more similar. We're more similar, and we're more than we are different. And when you really take the time to understand, because a lot of the time we're responding in anger to things that we don't understand, and they're more complex than we actually realize. So, and I've said a comment, so let me just balance that out. We're all humans, and we all have our stories, we all have our journeys, and that impacts on what we present and how we behave. And sometimes we do atrocious things, and they are wrong. But if you understand where people are coming from, it makes it easier. So there's that side to things. There's also the part that a lot of the things that we see where we look at people as other, they're complex. It's not black and white. There's complexity to them. They're layered. So there's a lot to say for taking the time to really understand. So that was a long thing to say. One of my greatest joys is, like you in a way, meeting people that are different travel to different parts of the world, explore, talk to people. I talk to anyone. And I think the starting point that I'd give to people is find someone that you wouldn't normally talk to, that you would see as other or different, and just have a conversation with them. You don't need to be nosy and ask them intimate details like I'm a black lady and sometimes people, their curiosity is let me touch your hair. Don't do that. Don't do that. Start with just talking to them, just having a regular conversation with someone you wouldn't normally talk about, and see what you naturally learn just from a casual conversation.
Wow. That is absolutely brilliant. And I really loved where you started that conversation. You were saying it's so important to be curious. And I'm going to add grateful to that. Grateful curiosity is a powerful way to be in the world because you don't know when the blessing is going to jump out and surprise you. So why not lean in with enthusiasm and awe and delight and wonder and just allow the opportunities to unfold? I mean, Susan, you're doing so much in the world. I'm really grateful that I get to keep you here for a really long time. I've been having such a good time. You incredibly generously offered us a wonderful free gift. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's I've recently set up a new, what do I call it? A new publication. It's on something called, I'll share the link, but it's on Substack, and it's leading in the Mosaic World. It includes includes where I share a lot of my thinking, my thoughts, programs, initiatives, and things that I'm doing. So I'm inviting people to subscribe. And when you subscribe, you will get a welcome invitation, which will also include an invitation to book a one-to-one strategy session with me.
That is wonderful and incredibly generous. And I love it because I love the way you think about the world. You have such a unique approach to how you describe what's happening. And I totally get where you're coming from. I just don't say it the same way you do. And so hearing it in a different way, in fact, getting together with other people who are even in your space and they do the same kinds of things that you do, but they talk about it differently. When you like reading a bunch of different books on the same topic, you get a completely different awareness, your own assimilation of what's working for you. And I'm so blown away by what you're doing. Now, obviously,
I should say, jump in and say, now actually, we might use different language and terms, but I've had the privilege to listen to your show, and you have some amazing conversations. And even when you're just speaking to the audience, you share some great insights, which get me going, yes. And so in some ways we're saying the same thing, but in different words. And even with that, it reinforces. I thought I knew that. Oh, yeah, okay, that reinforces. That's an interesting book. I must read that. So great.
It adds layers, right? It adds complexity. It's like instead of just one shade of blue, all of a sudden you've got these different hints and it looks like the ocean and a wave, and maybe there's sun shining through the wave. And yeah, you get this complexity that is this beautiful mosaic that we call life. And I love what you're doing. Susan, we always turn the tables on our guests because we know that when we give is when we truly receive the most. What can we do to support you?
So aside from, first and foremost, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so aside from, as I said, sign up for my updates. You'll get a lot of interesting, useful, thoughtful information. But aside from that, with my work with young people who have been in care, I have the website Mosaic Wise, which has the village. I would say visit. There's Mosaic Wise, the website, and it has a section when you scroll down the front page, which is the Care Experience Village. Have a look. And if you think that in any way, I don't have the time to go through our different initiatives, but if you want to support what we're doing in that space, please do get in touch.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give people another homework assignment, which is to listen to Susan's podcast. It's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant. It's one of my absolute favorites. So yeah, that's one that you need to pay attention to. I'll make sure that all the links you need are in the show notes. So listen to it. Listen to this again. This is one of my longer interviews, and I couldn't stop. I got so much out of this conversation. It's like, I want more, but wait, there's more. No, I want even more. And I've got a real dilemma here, Susan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of notes. And I have to pick just one thing to do the Activate Abundance segment around. Okay, I'll think of something. Wow, such generosity, so much beauty coming from your heart. And I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Susan.
Thank you. It's a privilege and a pleasure.
Stick around. We're going to activate abundance in just a minute. Hi, it's Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador, and I know since you're listening to this show or watching this show, The Abundance Journey, you really want to experience more abundance in your life. Well, that's why I wrote the book, 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. It's available for sale right now from Amazon, from barnesandnoble.com, and many international sellers. And I want you to pick up a copy because I'm really opening the kimono here and sharing all of the information you need to experience abundance in every single aspect of your life. The book's divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is called Meeting the Divine. This is where I share my near-death experience and the conversation I got to have with our higher power during my stroke. In Part 2, Messages from the Divine, I share the best practices that I was given, the secret sauce in how life actually works. And so you understand really why you're here and how you can make the most of your life so you love every single moment. And then in the Part 3 is Partnering with the Divine. That's where I go into each of the 5 steps to activate your abundance and explain exactly why it works so well. So take a moment to pick up a copy. It's available as an ebook, a paperback book, an audiobook, and a video course. So however you like to absorb information, abundance is waiting for you. You You can see why I didn't want to let Susan go, right? Because she's freaking amazing. I absolutely love and adore what she's up to. Step one is gratitude. Not only am I grateful for Susan and just her generosity and her time with us, I'm really grateful for all of the incredible things that she shared with us. Her perspective really helps open and enrich my world, and I'm so grateful for that. Step two is to acknowledge something you heard that was a little bit of an aha for you. And I loved what Susan said around every single one of us is valuable and has something of value to offer others. And one of the biggest stumbling blocks is that we don't recognize our own value. It's kind of like we have to love and respect ourselves before we can expect others to really love and respect us the way we want them to. And I thought that was a really, really profound concept. Step three, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Well, instead of just coming in, and obviously I want to serve when I have a conversation with people, I have the opportunity to get centered and balanced and grounded in myself and go within and really recognize the value that I bring to the table. The passion, the love, the sincerity. I keep tearing up because the messages that are coming through, I mean, this is what happens when you experience extreme joy, right? You burst into tears because it's so overwhelming, it's so overflowing that there's no other outlet for joy, for unbelievable joy. And that's what keeps happening in this conversation with Susan. It's continuing even now. So when I realize that I get to ground myself and recognize and cherish my own value before I connect with other people, that's where I can truly make a more profound connection because I've already acknowledged myself. I'm not waiting for acknowledgement from somebody else. I've acknowledged myself. I am loving to myself. I appreciate myself. And then I show up and I can be fully present for others. That was a huge aha for me. That was really, really important for me. Step four, we're going to activate it. We've got 3 different ways we can activate it. One option is grab your calendar, schedule time to get it done. This is something that's going to last a long time. Now, journaling also comes under grabbing your calendar because you want to schedule time to be present for yourself. This is where I do my journaling. I also do my daily celebration email with my friend. I put that under the calendar option. The second option, how we can activate this, is to create a physical trigger like crossing your fingers or tugging on your earlobe as a reminder, oh yeah, I need to get centered in and of myself. And what I like to do is take those 3 deep breaths where I breathe in, I am, and exhale, consciousness. Just doing that with my feet flat on the floor, my body upright, my shoulders back and down, I can do those 3 deep breaths slowly and remember to cherish that I am consciousness. The third way that we activate abundance is we declare what we're going to do. It really helps if you declare it to an accountability buddy, somebody who knows you and they can identify when maybe you're not following through on what you said you really wanted to do, because they're helping you stay in action around a new behavior. And it takes a little bit of time to get that ingrained and get it natural and just what you do on an ongoing basis. So I'm going to take on all 3 of those, especially around my breathing practice. I want to make sure that I journal, that I do my daily celebration, that I do my breaths throughout the day, especially before I'm connecting with other people. And I love doing that with other people because it unites our energy. It elevates our vibration. It connects us to the divine and to each other. And now that you have either watched or listened to this podcast, you are perpetually, permanently connected to Susan's energy and my energy and the energy of all the other listeners and viewers. You have a team behind you, an energetic team supporting you, encouraging you, and loving you. Step 5, celebrate your progress. Isn't this awesome? Yeah, the best way to get a lot of value out of the relationships and the experiences you have with other people is to value yourself. How cool is that? And ironically, all of the things that you want the most, the inner child has 6 inner needs of the inner child. An inner child wants to feel loved, wants to feel safe, wants to feel important, wants to feel connected, like to more people, to a bigger cause, wants to feel seen and wants to feel heard. And ironically, the only person who can give that to your inner child is you. You just got the power to celebrate who you are, to recognize your incredible value and what a blessing you are in the world. Just you being you. Just the whale shark being the whale shark. That's all that's required. Thank you so much for joining me today. Always remember, you are a blessing and you are blessed. I'll see you next time for The Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to The Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift, as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance, and we'll see you in the next episode.